afternoon, YouTube. This is Tire Metalhead Weatherman. Hopefully, you guys are having a good Saturday. It's been a better day for me. Been battling off whatever this is, cold, flu, but it's really resistant. It's not ready to go yet, but won't have a choice. But anyway, onward we move. I mainly talked about the recent changes to the forecast earlier today, or late last night actually. But there have been a few more changes that we need to go over, especially on the severe side of things. The snowy side has kind of remained the same, but we've gone back up now to a slight risk on Sunday, and now we have 2 more days of potential severe weather ahead. We have a marginal on the 24th, and now a day 4 slight risk on the 25th. So we'll go ahead and cover those. Well, depending on what could be next, we may cover some additional aspects of this big storm system here in the meantime. But let's go ahead and take a look at Sunday's new parameters and setup here. So now we have a slight risk area that covers southern Minnesota, some parts of eastern South Dakota and Nebraska, northeastern Kansas, and the western half of Iowa here. You have areas like Omaha, Lincoln, Sioux Falls in place. Norfolk, you're just outside of the slight risk. You are in the marginal though, no questions asked. Other areas in the marginal include Wichita, Kansas City, Des Moines, Minneapolis. That's really about it for all the big cities. There's a few other smaller cities in the mix there, but unfortunately I can't name every city in the freaking country. So let's go ahead and look at the hazard types. Main threats are going to be, without a doubt, damaging winds and hail, especially damaging winds, given the wind field, and we'll be looking into that in just a minute. But we do have a very sneaky, very small, albeit small, 2% area of tornadic potential here, mainly towards Omaha and Sioux Falls. But that's about it. That's not really too much going on there. And then we'll go ahead and go to day 3. There is a chance late Monday evening and maybe into Tuesday where we might have a chance for severe weather around the southeastern part of Texas. It's a marginal risk, but I will always give this room for a potential upgrade, as parameters often change on the day of. But Waco, Austin, San Antonio, even Houston and Corpus Christi, I'm not ruling you guys out of this either. We'll just kind of have to see how things go. We'll see where the convective initiation starts and what time. I think that's going to be a big part of this setup here. Now let's go to the day that I've been talking about for the longest. We've been talking about day 4 for forever. Oops. Come on now. Day 4 here, we're starting to look at more of a southeastern severe threat, mainly centered over Mississippi here. We do have parts of eastern Arkansas and right towards the boot of Louisiana here, towards the curved part of it. That's where we could be looking at some additional severe weather. But basically towns like South Haven, Mississippi, Jackson, Greenville, Memphis, Tennessee, we can't rule you guys out. It's not really anything too far into Louisiana. It's like a bigger city for me to note right now. So if I missed your city, I'm sorry, but we'll be talking more about your area, I'm sure, in a minute. So let's go ahead and take a look at the threat for tomorrow. We're going to be mainly looking towards Sunday. Uh-oh, it's frozen here. So we'll start out by looking at what the limiting factors are. Before, when I was talking about this system, the Cape values were going to be a big factor here. It isn't the same now. That same warm air that we were expecting aloft, it isn't going to be there, but the lapse rates aren't going to be super high in this region. So that's one thing that still will inhibit this threat of severe weather. Oh, it actually... Nah, it's not going to be high. For one moment here, I kind of thought for a second, I was like, wait a minute. They're saying lapse rates are low, but this recent HRRR says otherwise here. Hang on a minute. But no, lapse rates are looking pretty low, pretty unimpressive. Somewhere between 6.5. I mean, it's enough for severe weather, but it's nothing that stands out in particular. It's nothing like what these lapse rate, if it were these lapse rates over this area. So there's nothing to really worry about there. Once the weather moves out, lapse rates go back up, of course, but weather's calm. So if just because you see yourself in an area where the colors are brighter, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get severe weather. So we'll go ahead and look at the look at this cap here, because that was a big factor. That was a big talk before. We aren't seeing the same things now. We'll run this through, and there's little to no cap there now. There's some, but not much. So convective initiation around this area does seem a lot more likely, hence why they went back to the slight risk that they had a few days earlier. The Cape values are still pretty low, but that's to be expected for this time of year, to be honest. Both the mixed layer and the surface Cape just isn't going to be impressive with this. Oh, jumping ahead of myself here. We look into Sunday here, and right towards the end of this, that's when you start to see the Cape values towards like the 500, maybe in a scattered 1,000 somewhere in there, but it's not that impressive. Start to go into Monday, and that's when we'll start to see that build up. We'll continue that on when we look at the euro here. One thing that is a big factor though is the shear. The shear is the big reason why I think we went back up to a slight risk here, because we're looking at 50 to 70 knot wind shear at the low to mid levels of the jet stream, and that's always going to be a big factor. And it can usually once you have something or some kind of parameter in more robust manners, it can overcome the parameters that are lacking a little bit. Is it as complete of a severe weather threat as something you would see in the spring? No, but it still can be very dangerous as a result, and you can kind of see it here. Look at this region right up in here. We're looking between 50, 60, 70, maybe even a little bit higher around here according to the HRRR. So this definitely has some weight to it as far as potential. Will all of that mix to the ground and create big damaging windstorms? Yet to be seen, because this is still a pretty conditional threat. The timing of this is going to be everything. Where these storms fire is going to be everything. If these storms fire too early, we won't get much of anything. If storms fire too late, we'll lose what little instability there is. So a lot of moving parts with this, in a not so positive, in a positive way for us, but not a positive way if you're looking for severe weather. Also, might as well move this forward and try to see what we could be looking at down here towards the south and east, because that's what we'll be looking at next. That's what I'll be looking at next here. Okay, so now we're going to the euro. I'll close this out to try to help speed things along a little bit. Oh, how do we go back to single image? What the heck? Gotta love when my computer does some crazy stuff. Okay. Alright, now that we're moving here, and this is always the one model that causes me a lot of the troubles, the wind models here. So here's the low level jet again for Sunday, and you can see a pretty good blob here where we're looking at about 50 to 60 knots here. easily sufficient enough for severe weather, especially since we're on the southeastern flank of this. It's a perfect spot right here, right in the warm sector. And then when we look towards Monday evening, here's a little piece of energy here. It's a pretty good dip here too, actually. It's pretty impressive. It's positively tilted though, so this is definitely leaning towards more of a linear type of threat. As we move this further and further along, it looks like the energy starts to dissipate as we get into late Tuesday. And by Wednesday, this pretty much diminishes to next to nothing, and just probably will become a rain event for the Northeast, just with a very limited wind. And then we're going to be trying to take a look at this storm system that's I'm expecting around the 28th. So far, I don't see a lot of wind energy with it yet, or at least not until the 30th. This looks a little bit interesting, but it's nothing that I can really latch on to right now, if you know what I mean. Maybe towards the 31st, there could be something going on around the Ohio Valley, but like I said, given how far out it is and given how relatively unimpressive it looks, it's kind of hard to say. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the mid-levels too while I'm at it. Might as well just geek out on this all the way, right? If this will load. Alright, so we're back to the 700 now. And we'll get a better idea of what exactly the Storm Prediction Center is referring to. I don't like really using the bulk shear as much, although it is a little bit faster to do that than try to look at both the low-level jet and the mid-level jet here, because it can get a little crazy. But one thing I noticed is there is a tiny, and I mean micro little area here where we have what looks to be a little bit of a turning of the winds at the mid-levels. Yeah, just a little bit right about here. But this doesn't really scream anything magnanimous. In fact, this doesn't even have a hazard type with it. So, and there's not like I said, there's not a lot of instability. So tornado threat is really minimal. But it does exist though, so it is something that has to be watched. We'll go ahead and look at the mid-levels for Monday too. Mid-levels, of course, are going to look a little bit strong because the higher up you go, the stronger the winds are going to get. Here's our next storm system right here. We'll watch this roll into the southeast. It looks a little bit more impressive. And then this gets kicked out. We'll be looking towards the 28th to see what that looks like. Still not looking that robust, to be honest. Well, actually, no. Yeah, it's still not looking that robust, to be honest. So, it is what it is there. And then, go ahead and look at the dew points while we're at it, too. Why not? Because the dew points are also going to be a big factor as to why a lot of this stuff will end up producing some severe weather. Because this is one key factor you have to have regardless. You have to have dew points that are at least into the upper 50s, if not the low 60s. And we're definitely going to be getting that. So here is Saturday afternoon into Sunday morning. And then right around here, look, if you look closely, we're starting to get into those mid-50s. And then in some spots over here, you saw those little patches of blue. Those are 60-degree dew points. And then look around here by Monday afternoon, excuse me. This is a great spot for severe storms to develop. I do think that this has potential to become a slight risk for Monday. simply due to the fact that we have dew points that are in the mid 60s. Cape values are a little higher for this area, I would say, in comparison to what's going on over here towards the northern plains. And then the same can be said when this storm system works its way into Mississippi and Alabama here. By the time we get this storm system going further into the southeast here, the amount of moisture available is going to be a little bit more limited, and it's going to really hamper the severe weather threat. Next system comes in, definitely going to be watching southeastern Texas once more, and then of course the southeast has a potential threat as well, but again, parameters seem like they're a little bit limited. But we'll have to watch and see how this next storm system will progress, because it hasn't even formed yet. Keep in mind, the system I'm watching on the 28th hasn't even formed yet technically. It's somewhere out there in the Pacific, either just now starting to form or will be forming. That's the only little bit of confidence I truly have in that right now. So now we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the mixed layer cape for that, and then from there I think that's pretty much just gonna be the end of the video. Might just run through the we might run through what the radar may look like as well, but for the most part I think we already know what to expect. We'll start out running through tomorrow's threat. Euro doesn't really show a lot of cape around here, not a surprise given the fact that this is a longer range model. We look more towards Monday and the cape's a little bit more robust. Definitely makes sense given the higher dew points. Usually dew point and cape kind of go hand in hand in some ways, but that also has to do with the upper levels of the atmosphere too and temperatures. So it's a tough game. Can't really get a good look at the cape values for Tuesday just yet. I might be able to touch on that tomorrow night, because right now we're just a little bit too far out. Once we get within 48 to 60 hours, that's when we'll start to be able to really hone in on things. And then of course on Tuesday and Wednesday we have next to nothing. But on the 28th though, oddly enough, and this is what has my attention, this is why I have so much attention focused on the 28th, is because you normally don't see cape values this high, this far out during this time of year. So that just says a lot. I feel like that says a lot. And oh, there you go. Looks like I hit a little something here just by hitting the sounding here. I got a marginal tornado threat here. It's just above the non-tornado threat. The cape values are at about averaging about maybe 1608, 60 degree dew point, 66 degree temperature, and this is looking like it's towards late in the evening here, maybe even an overnight threat. And then look at how those cape values really start to spike late in the evening. That could be a nocturnal threat potentially. And then towards Monday, it looks like over towards southern Georgia here, northern Florida, maybe even some parts of South Carolina may be of interest too, towards Halloween night now. Marginal severe threat. Dew points in the upper 60s. Cape values in the 2000s. And temperatures near 80 degrees. Definitely has the look of a linear event, but there is a small curve in that little hortograph, so very interesting sounding here. We're going to be definitely keeping a close eye on this to see how this unfolds here, because this could turn into a pretty nasty situation if things could progress, if things further progress and uptick. That looks like that's about it for the video here. If there's more of a wintry side over the next couple of days, of course I'll be covering that as well. There's also other stuff that I'm going to be covering. Those videos that'll be covering some of the severe weather parameters, winter parameters, so on and so forth, will be coming soon, as well as other material. Been teasing that for a while, but you'll get to see in December. You'll get to see that particular piece that I'm talking about in December, I should say. But if you like what I've been talking about in this video, definitely drop me a like. Also, let me know in the comments what you think of the weather coming up. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, like almost 70% of you actually aren't subscribed. So like, what are you doing if you're constantly watching my videos? You know, it doesn't cost you anything to sub. Just hit the button. It's just a click of a button. If you do it though, definitely get the bell on so that way you can know every time I upload here. Because normally when I upload, in particular, something's about to happen. But anyway, enough rambling from me. This has been Tired Metalhead Weatherman. I will see you guys probably in the morning. Have a good Saturday, you guys.